Everyone, let's give a warm welcome to Daniel Roy Greenfeld. A round of applause.
Hi, can you hear me okay? Excellent, okay. All right, so I don't seem to have the display yet. If I could get some help from the AV team, please.
Apologies.
So,
Yeah. How do you? Sorry, I'll have to ask.
maybe this works? There we go. Okay, I think we got it. Okay. All right, let's do this. Okay, so my name is Daniel Roy Greenfeld, and my first time in Davao. This place is awesome. So yeah, I'm so excited to be here. I've already had a really good time here. I really identify with the gentleman on the left. So when you see that representation, I know that I'm not Filipino by blood, but I am by marriage. And I love so much about your culture and history and languages and cuisine. The one thing I don't like, I have to admit, please don't boo me, is I'm not a fan of durian. I do like pomelo. In the United States where I'm from, pomelo is awful. Here, it's this amazing fruit. So, so at least this conference isn't called Durian PyCon. I do want to thank the organizers. I helped organize the first PyCon Philippines in 2012. It was an enormous amount of work. People talk about how well structured and organized it was, but behind the scenes, it was absolute chaos. So I really respect everything that the team has done here, especially in the face of the earthquake or earthquakes and all the things that have been going on. So well done. Yeah, I'm just really impressed with them. Okay, so let's get on with the talk. Why are we building this web framework AIR in 2025? And especially since the Python world doesn't have a shortage of incredible web frameworks. These frameworks, they're not trial little things. They're not backyard projects anymore, at least. There are multi-billion-dollar unicorns that run on this stuff. Every public-facing LLM serves out their stuff using FastAPI. Django, is considered boring technology these days, and it powers stuff like Instagram, and Flask powers Pinterest and other things. So why try to compete? And for me, especially these days, well, I'm best known for Django, but these days I really enjoy using FastAPI. As you can see from my representation up there, that the organizers have given us speakers in terms of art, I really like using it. And the API is just so elegant and clean. It's masarap. It's delicious. Especially because I do a lot of API work. There's nothing better. I know there's analogs now in Flask and Django that do have similar behaviors, but nothing really compares to FastAPI. But there is a time when FastAPI isn't good, and that's when you're building those web pages to support your API, the landing pages, the dashboards, hey, I want to display data. I've spent all this time accumulating data. I've spun up Jupyter Notebook or Marimo to figure things out, and then I have to display it in pretty charts for managers. How on earth do you do that? And it's a pain. I mean, it's doable, but if you follow the documentation, it tells you to do stuff that doesn't make any sense. So for example, the response model that you're supposed to use is an HTML response, but that's not a model. And as a developer who's cynical and wants things precise, that bothers me. It feels stapled on. And also, sure, I know there's code completion, but this is a lot of typing. And my philosophy is the more unnecessary typing that you do, the greater the chance that you will introduce error, either you or the LLM or the code completion in your IDE. So, I mean, in a nutshell, using Jinja, and I love Jinja, it just takes a lot of work to use it in FastAPI. Flask does it better, Django does it better. And what's even worse is when you get into the real meat of things, which is often forms, form processing in FastAPI remains difficult. And it's gotten better, but if you've done it at a significant, if you've done significant amount of forms work in FastAPI, you know what I'm talking about. And there's a reason for this, and that's because FastAPI wants to return JSON. It is a JSON API tool. And when you step away from that, then all those behaviors hard-coded into it suddenly take a lot of work to overcome. And then if you're working with reactive tools like, you know, the cool stuff like HTMX and Alpine, and I guess Datastar, it just, I don't know, it just adds a lot of friction. And so if you want to give that reactivity to users, it's not as fun as it could be. So the elephant in the room with my argument is React, right? React solves these problems, right? I'm seeing some people nod, yeah, React solves these problems. And the challenge with React is it was designed by Facebook for Facebook's needs. I seriously doubt any of us in this room has Facebook's requirements. Like, who here is running a multi-billion-dollar company with data with over 1 billion users? Raise your hand. I can't raise my hand. But you are always. So the luchador over there is doing it always. So why are we introducing the cognitive load, the extra coding of using with React? And don't get me wrong, I love React. I really, really love where it's such a fun tool to use. But if I'm using it to handle the front end, well, I'm also doing the back end. I'm doing 2 projects. I'm not doing 1. I'm maybe not quite doubling my workload, but it's getting close. And let's not forget deployments, right? Deployments, you're doing it twice, and that adds to the maintenance load. And I love coding, but I don't want to do unnecessary work. My philosophy is I want to be as lazy as possible. So why am I doing double the work with React? And also, I'm not Facebook. Why am I trying to meet the requirements of Facebook for my project, which might have, if I'm lucky, several million users? So yeah, it makes me sad, very, very sad. So that's why we started building Air, and we didn't do it in a vacuum. I've spent a lot of time talking to Sebastian Ramirez of FastAPI. In fact, we're part of the very private FastAPI Labs beta, and he agrees that that building HTML with FastAPI could be easier. And the way to do it is not by changing FastAPI itself, but by building other things. Hence, there's Air. And if you look at the comparison on the left with the happy face is how you'd build a page out with Air, which is short, clean Maserap code. And on the right is without Air. And these are both FastAPI apps. Even though the one on the left doesn't say import FastAPI, it is using FastAPI. And what's awesome about it is if you have, let's say, your API over here that you're serving out to gather data and send stuff to other businesses, or picked up by JSON clients, you can have that and the HTML system on the same server. So it really simplifies deployments. And would it handle the $1 billion use case? Like, let's say we're Anthropic or OpenAI, probably not. You probably want to break out FastAPI into its own server. But how many of us have that requirement? I can tell you most of us don't, and we still hopefully live comfortably. Air is not, as I said, Air is not built in a vacuum. It was built on giants. So if you know much about modern Python, all of these things, FastAPI, Pydantic, Starlet, Jinja, PyTest, sorry, I'm reading the bullets, which I don't like to do. Sorry. It builds on the shoulders of giants, which is something I really believe in, even though we're innovating. So there are problems. There are things that are making Air hard, and I'll go over them with you. So there's the incumbents. There's the big 3, right? There's how do we differentiate ourselves from these incumbents who are awesome. I love all three of them. Also, this is the age of AI. LLMs are now part of our career, whether we want it or not, and they don't recognize error yet. Maybe they will in the future, I guess. And then there's not much of an ecosystem supported. And this is a lot. This is actually arguably overwhelming. Maybe this is too much, too hard. But I want to bring up something that I think is really important. Oh, I've been told to move closer to the mic. I'll squat down. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to talk about word choices. Words matter. The word problem is incredibly negative, and it can constrain you because the word is too hard. So instead of problems, I like to have challenges, because challenges implies things that we can overcome, things that we want to solve. And it gives us a better mindset to doing the things that we want to do. So let's look at ERA's challenges. So the incumbents, these incredible incumbents with unicorns around the planet using them. One thing that they struggle with is that they have to protect legacy behaviors. If Django decides to make a significant change, then some significant projects that protect not just the finances or the social media of millions or billions, we're talking about people's lives and welfare. This is a damage that can be done. So they have to be very careful about protecting these legacy behaviors. Yeah, they don't want to break things. Error, because we're so new, is not chained to the past. Not yet, and that makes it really fun to work on right now, having contributed to these other projects. So that's one thing, and then with that, we can differentiate. We can be different. Sorry, repeating myself. We can try and innovate, and if there's a wheel that we want to try reinventing, we have the liberty to do so. And I'm going to go over these three examples, error tags, HTMX, and Pydantic models. So we use Jinja, because we love Jinja, but we also wanted something shorter and faster than Jinja, or faster to code, not necessarily faster performance-wise. So these three lines of code generate this. And by this, I also mean the pretty outline with the error to HTML thing. This is the sort of stuff that we can do, that we can get away with, because we don't have users saying, no, you can't do that, or you can't change this particular feature. We can explore and try new things and reject them if necessary. We can tie error to a front-end framework. We chose HTMX. There's some arguments for some other ones, but HTMX right now is the elephant in the room in the modern, very light reactive frameworks. And what this does, for example, it generates this chart, which when you get a request from a page, from a browser, be it an HTMX, HXGet, or just a simple click on a link, these are the values that are stored in it, or displayed, and it just shows that for you. And so this is built into Air. You don't have to install a separate package. Maybe we shouldn't do this. Maybe HTMX will go away, but we can try it out and see what our users think. Pydantic-powered error forms. So Pydantic, who here has used Pydantic? It should be a lot more. So it is by far and away, the world's most popular validation framework. If you're using an LLM, the way that they categorize and structure data is through Pydantic models. And FastAPI is heavily powered by it, and it's big in many fields. And what we do is we use it to render out our HTML forms. And so this way you can define how you validate data, you can connect it to databases and LLMs, and now display the HTML. And as far as we know, no one else does this because we couldn't find any other implementations. And still rough, it needs work, but that's part of the fun of it. We get to innovate. All right, LLM ignorance. This is really a pain because we're beholden to these large vendors. And so the result is to get around this ignorance of LLMs is actually a blessing in disguise because we get to design our system to be AI friendly from day one. We're forced to. And to do that, we lean into Python's type annotations. We carefully handcraft with AI validation all of the doc strings, and maybe I'll get into that later. Oops, wrong way. And every callable has a working code example. So in theory, well, we're working towards it. In theory, if you look at the code base of Air, every function, everything has working example in the doc string. And so that way, if you ever need to look at the source code of something because the documentation doesn't explain it, you have an example of how to do things. And if you are ever on a serious project and you start running into edge cases, this is such a wonderful thing to have. All right, the fourth challenge is there's no ecosystem. There's no third-party libraries yet. There isn't. If you run into a problem, you're kind of solving yourself. This is really similar to the days in which I started Django. And it was a beautiful time. Right now, if you want to do anything new in Django, good luck. Pretty much everything is done. And that's great. It's great for building stuff. But if you want to be creative, if you want to set your mark on your career, it can be hard to do that in Django. But with newer tools coming up, and this is part of the reason why FastAPI exploded in popularity and Pydantic, is because they had these periods of creativity and people did make the mark in their careers. So if you see a tool like Air, or I know there's some other upcoming tools, now's the time when they're still coming up to say, oh, can I contribute? Can I be part of this? Can I make a third-party package that works with it? Oh yeah, I just already talked this slide through. So, like for a project like Air, if you want to ask me, hey, what can I build with it? I'm not really sure. That's more up to you than what I can do. With Django, I remember 15, 16, 17 years ago, we were just creating a lot of crazy, some of it really stupid things, but it helped us make our mark. There are libraries now. Oops, I'm out of time. All right, I'll go really fast. So this is the URL for that. Takeaways, I'm going to be super quick, and I'll take questions. Clean abstractions are lovely. Blank slates are fun. Let's see, we went through this. Build upon giants. This is really important. Only reinvent wheels that you need to reinvent. Don't waste your time on things you can just add from it as a dependency. Word choice matters. It shapes reality. Especially now with AI, the words that we choose have even more impact, and use words to define your own narrative rather than the other way around. Don't be a slave to the machine. Take chances. This is really important. Dare to do new things, to make mistakes. Ask questions. Now is the time. You have like, somewhere around here is Sonny Valdez. He's like the godfather of Python in the Philippines. Like, talk to him. And there's others here, like there's a bunch of them at this table. Ask them questions, don't be shy. And how do you think I got here to Davao? And that's because when I was at the start of my career, I was terrified, but I asked questions anyway. And I'm here talking to you all because that's what I did back in the day. So that's me. Before I take questions with what time I have, this is the pictures from the first PyCon Philippines in 2012. This is the opening keynote speaker, my dear friend, Brian Veloso. He was GitHub's first employee, and this guy asks serious questions. So yeah, he's amazing. All right, any questions if I have any time?